welcome back. You're listening to the Cinema Condition with your host, filmmaker and creator of the Nerdcore Podcast Network, Raul Alejandro Mendoza. And as always, we are here for another movie with another guest. Last week, we looked at Michael Gondry's Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind with our guest, Sabrina Ramirez, and you guys loved that episode, and I really appreciate you guys enjoying that. I appreciate Sabrina for showing the love on it and sharing it with everybody. But today we are here for another movie with a guest that you've never seen and you never heard on this show, at least. But you may know him from shows like the Weeb Corps, and he's been on a couple of episodes of the Nerdcore live show, the old version. And of course, he's been on the Nerdcore as well a couple of times. But he is the creator of the Weeb Corps and the host, and that is none other than my producing, writing partner, and editor, Mr. Alex Flores. How are you doing today, bud?
I'm doing well. I'm doing pretty excellent. It's a nice chill day for me, and I get to talk about one of my favorite films of all time. We're not going to jump right into it, but this is one of my films that I hold near and dear to my heart. It's an absolute classic to me, and I'm ready to talk about it.
Yeah, man. I'm so excited for this, man. I mean, so spoiler alert for those of you who don't know, I did say this in the beginning, like a couple of episodes before. Alex does have 2 picks for this show, so this isn't his first one. I mean, this isn't his last one. He'll be on later on in the show before we end the first season. And I mean, what is there to say about Alex? I mean, this guy is the he was the mastermind of Weeb Corps when that was alive at the time. He's a huge comic book nerd. He's a huge cinephile, an aspiring filmmaker himself. He's an editor. He's edited one short film for me, and he's also my producing and writing partner. And we're working on expanding the script right now that we're gonna get to doing soon, and we're gonna be doing that. And he's also a comic book writer as well. You know, he's working on a script for a comic book series that he wants to do. Anything else that I missed out on Alex? I know you're a big collector too, right?
No, sir. That's pretty much what I have going on for me. Right after the Weeb Corps went on hiatus, I decided to take a break from anime. It just, like, I still collect every now and then, and I'll still watch every now and then, but it's just like after the Weeb Corps for so long and just like going at it, it kind of burned me out on anime for a little bit. Mm-hmm. So what I decided was to shift focus to what another like love of mine, which is comic books, American comic books. Mm-hmm. So that's what I've been focusing on a lot. I've been collecting a lot. I've been reading a lot. I'm keeping up with comic books, and like you said, I'm writing my own comic. I at least have like the first draft of the first issue finished, and I'm trying to go along creating it. I'm planning on it being about 12 to 15 issues. It's a maxi series, so I'm aiming on it to be about between 12 to 15 issues.
Yep.
And it's gonna be pretty fun.
Yep, man. And I need you to resend that treatment for me because I lost it, so I need to reread it. But I mean,
no problem.
Yeah, Alex is one of my best friends, man. I mean, we went to school together, and we went to high school. What's it called together? And then I was at college with him for a bit together, and I mean this. He took part in the creation of this. Well, he wasn't took part in the creation of this network, but I mean he was down to help me kind of grow the network, and he had his own show at the time. And I was gonna say, dude, if you were burned out on anime, but we do a comic book club for Patreon that is only fucking monthly. So like if you ever wanted to stop on that and kind of be like, hey man, like this is the book that we should cover this month. Then what's it called? We just got to read it, and then we talk about it in a month. So it doesn't really have the probability of burning you out that bad.
Yeah, no, I'm always reading. So when it comes to comic books, I'm always reading.
Yeah.
I just went. Oh wow, that thunder was loud.
Yeah. So
but I'm constantly reading. Just the other day, I went out and picked up some comics. What did I pick up yesterday? I picked up Strange Adventures #2. It's one of my most anticipated series of the year. It's by Tom King, who did like an 85-issue run on Batman. He did an excellent maxi series for Mr. Miracle. He did the Omega Men. He did a run on Vision. His Vision run is actually what's inspiring the WandaVision show for.
Yep.
It's a bit of a loose adaptation of his run on Vision. So I'm constantly reading. I picked up his Strange Adventures. I picked Jeff Lemire's the Question, The Deaths of Vic Sage, issue number 3, out of a 4-issue miniseries. Picked that one up. And then I picked up the Joker 80th anniversary 100-page spectacular, as well as Batman 92, because I'm trying to catch up on I'm not catching up on Batman. I haven't read that much Batman, but I kind of want to jump in because they're doing an upcoming Joker War crossover series with the Bat Family books. So I was like, fuck it, might as well.
Yeah. Yeah, so you've got a lot of stuff being read, and we were only able to do one episode right now of the movie of the what's it called, Comic Book Club. We've been trying to, so we've gotten back on track when it comes to the feed, the actual main feed from what can be on track right now. Now we're trying to work with our Patreon to get back on track. But I was like, if you want to come on Comic Book Club, the comic book we're supposed to be reading right now is Mashbone and Griff, the issue number, the first issues that the guys got, because what's it called? It's from Five Meats, from those guys, our friends. And we wanted to talk about that comic book, but we did Science from Ashley V. Robinson and Jason Ninman last one. And we're going to try to do fucking Mashbone and Grifty. But yeah, man. But, those are conversations that can be had after this. We're done here. Yeah. But yeah, man. I mean, I told you about the show, and you decided to pick this movie. I mean, it's been about a year to a year and a half, right?
That we picked this movie? Yes.
No. I mean, as in, you've done a podcast.
Oh, yeah. Me doing a podcast? Oh, yeah. I haven't done a podcast since the last Weeb Corps episode. It's been... Yeah. Oh, no. Or when was that interview that we did with Zach, the writer?
Oh, the last episode with Zach, that's almost gonna be a year, bro. I think that's
almost a year.
Hold on, it's right here on the fucking Discord, because I put the announcement in there.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So that was episode 225, bro. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, that was the last episode that I recorded, because I think that was already once Weeb Corps started slowing down.
Yeah, May 22nd, bro.
Oh yeah, no, it's already over a year.
Yeah, so the bad signal was raised for Alex, and I told him, you got 2 slots, bro. 2 movies you want to do, and the first one that Alex chose, and the one we are discussing today, is James Mangold's 2017 comic book film, Logan. And why, man? Why'd you pick this movie?
It's okay. So, like we said, I'm a huge comic book nerd. So, I'm constantly watching comic book films. You can ask anybody. I watch them good. I watch them bad. I watch the best, and I watch the shittiest ones. I just rewatched Green Lantern, and I swear to God, I took a nap because it wasn't that easy to sit through.
Yeah.
But Logan is one that I hold near and dear to my heart. It is. I love Marvel, and I love the X-Men series, and Logan just exceeded all of my expectations, and it surpassed what a comic book film is. It really surpassed the comic book film genre. Everyone usually knows comic book films, the MCU, the Marvel movies, but this really felt like it took the template of a superhero comic book film, threw it out, and said, no, we're going to make a film that you can literally watch as a fucking film.
Yeah.
It's a film. It's not a comic book film. It's a fucking film.
Mm-hmm.
And it's one of the most beautiful pieces of cinema I've ever seen. The cinematography in it is gorgeous. It's the most minimal of effects. Besides all the hacking and slashing that Logan does throughout the film, it's so minimal effects. It doesn't feel like a blockbuster X-Men film like the other ones have been. It's just a film about a broken down former superhero that's really just trying to find after what happened throughout the events of his past, and that's what I really and it also goes into, I was worried about the film because when I first heard that they were making an old man Logan movie, I was kind of skeptical because I wasn't a big fan of the Mark Millar original graphic novel of Old Man Logan.
Mm-hmm.
I've never been a real big fan of Mark Millar in general, but that's something for people to chastise me for another day.
All the hate
But
mail is directed to him, by the way. It's all
the hate
directed.
mail is directed to me. I've said it since the Weeb Corps. If you do not like me and you want to chastise me, please send me hate mail. I'm more than happy to read it.
_Alex on Twitter.
So it's like, just please send me your hate mail. But I was really interested to see how this was going to go. I was really interested to see what turn this movie was going to take. And I remember sitting in the theater, finally getting to watch it, and just thinking, holy shit, this movie's beautiful.
Mm-hmm. I agree with you there, man. I mean, to me, this is the best comic book movie ever. Nothing has topped this. Not Joker, not last year's Joker, this beat The Dark Knight for me. This beat The Dark Knight easily. No Endgame has beat this. No Infinity War has done this. No Black Panther, nothing. This movie to me is the gold standard of what we can do when you take the genre of the comic book films and then completely throw out that genre and make a movie that transcends it.
And I think that's something that like you even see with comic books, because I think what Hollywood does with comic books is that, you know what, we've always been able, like, and I think it's probably what Marvel started, you know, with the Marvel movies. They're basically summer blockbusters.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the way that they're treated, when in reality, even if you go to the comic book medium, yeah, we have our big blockbuster crossover events, your Civil Wars, your Secret Empire, your all the Secret Wars, all the different like crossover events that bring in like 30 titles as tie-ins. But I think comics can even show you that there's even room for these kind of stories. You know, like I was saying, Tom King. You read his Strange Adventures run that I said I just bought. It took a character from the Silver Age of comics, like the 60s, in Adam Strange, and it took Adam Strange, and it's like, well, you know, DC's always treated Adam Strange as like the superhero, intergalactic savior. Well, what happens if that planet that he was saving didn't look at him as a savior, but they actually treated him as a war criminal?
Yep.
And so I think that's something that Hollywood is slowly starting to catch up with, starting with Logan and like with Joker. It's like, yo, we can actually take these characters and tell a lot darker stories that don't necessarily have to be like summer blockbusters and like the traditional comic book stories.
Mm-hmm. Yo, by the way, my house was just starting to shake a little because of this thunder. Jesus, dude. We picked a wonderful day to record this.
It's a gloomy day for a gloomy movie.
Yeah, definitely. And we're gonna talk more about this, but nobody's chosen a James Mangold movie before. So what we do here is that we actually have to introduce our filmmaker. So before we actually get into our conversation on Logan, I have to introduce you guys to the filmmaker known as James Mangold. He was born December 16th, 1963. And of course, he's a film and TV director, screenwriter, and producer. He's done pretty famous films. I mean, the most famous, other than Logan and the Wolverine, to me is Walk the Line with Joaquin Phoenix. It's the Johnny Cash biopic.
And which I've seen like parts of, and that movie's like fuck.
Oh man, that movie's so good, dude. But yeah, and of course he did Ford v Ferrari. I believe that's his most recent work, which he got in nomination for best picture for that. Everybody's favorite dad movie was Ford v Ferrari, and his first movie was Heavy, which was in 1995. But you know, the one that he would get the most known for, of course, was Copland in 97, and then Girl Interrupted in 99. And you know, he'd make a lot more other movies. 310 to Yuma remake in 2007, and was this a remake? The 310 to Yuma was a remake, right?
I think so. Let me
the one with Christian Bale? Yeah.
Yeah, it's a remake of the 1957 film.
Yeah.
And yeah, the second adaptation of the short story 310 to Yuma.
Yeah. And as you guys know, he is going to be directing Indiana Jones 5. And yeah, that is the filmmaker James Mangold.
My favorite of his upcoming works that I'm like super stoked for. If anyone knows my taste in music, it was announced that he was going to do a biopic on Bob Dylan.
Yeah, I believe that
And
one's going electric, right?
Yeah,
yeah.
And I love that idea because I fucking love Bob Dylan. He's one of my favorite artists of all time. The dude's an amazing fucking singer songwriter.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember always looking up the whole controversy of Bob Dylan going electric and ditching his acoustic guitar and starting to make like full band and fucking electric guitar music, and like how everyone was outraged. I'm like, bro, I can't wait to see this fucking captured.
Yeah. And as you can tell, and I mean, of course, the man did make a straight up Western in 2007 with 310 to Yuma, of course.
Yeah.
But, Mangold is quite the fan of the Western genre. I mean, Walk the Line ain't a Western, but I mean, it's based on a fucking country artist who, was the closest we got to a cowboy at that time. He was the modern cowboy. And, Bob Dylan, also another folk and, country singer as well at what point.
Fucking folk hero.
Yep. I mean, Mangold seems to be very interested in the Old West and the American West type of storylines. And, a lot of his movies carried that. I mean, fuck, dude. Ford v Ferrari, Matt Damon's character is basically a cowboy-obsessed guy, too.
Yeah. And that's the thing. While everyone's like, well, the oversaturation of Westerns killed the Western, I'm like, yeah, you know what? They did. There was an oversaturation. Doesn't mean that the Western style of film telling and like storytelling wasn't amazing.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like it wasn't like this like, oh, it doesn't work anymore. Like, no, I think everything still carries a little bit of the Western.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
everything still carries a little bit of the Western. Like the Western, the Westerns had tales of revenge, tales of redemption, broken down person. I think we're still seeing it in the mediums today.
Yeah, man. Of course, we're not in the period that we were in, like in the 60s and the 70s, where the Western was the comic book movie of today. It was the big franchise. It was the big moneymaker. It was always constantly being made. But now we've kind of moved into the neo-Western now, and we are seeing some really damn good movies come out of it. I mean, look at fucking Hell or High Water. We just discussed that on the Nerd Corps. Yeah.
Oh, Hell or High Water is fucking great. It's one of the best like movies that I've seen in the past couple of years.
Yeah. Hell or High Water, great modern Western. I mean,
modern like kind of Western heists.
Yeah. So we're kind of we're seeing it be kind of blended in with the different genres that we have now. So
it's become like a hybrid genre because Westerns are still alive. They're mostly B movies. They're mostly like straight to, or the Sisters Brothers. Have you seen that one?
Sisters Brothers, Hostels. Great. Hostels with Christian Bale. That was another one that came out. I mean, we still have Westerns, but they're not at the, they aren't being made like, they're not being popped out of a gun like back then where everybody was making a Western. But, no. So Logan, of course, Logan it's not a straight up adaptation. It is an adaptation of the Old Man Logan storyline from the Marvel
it's very
comics.
Loosely borrowing from Old Man Logan.
But in this film, our protagonist Logan, aka the Wolverine, all the mutants have been killed off except for him, Charles Xavier, and Caliban. And out comes and as this broken down Wolverine who's older, and he's kind of at the last of his tail, man. He really does seem to be nothing else is going for him, and he meets this young girl who seems to possess similar qualities to him in his genetic mutations, and we enter into a story of redemption, into revenge, betrayal, and just a story about a broken down man who must be forced to pass on the torch to this younger girl. And that is Logan's synopsis in my mind. And this movie is one of my favorite movies of all time. It is one of my favorite Westerns. It is one of my favorite adaptations of a book in general. And it's just my favorite comic book movie. And I could tell you, man, I still remember the first day I watched this movie in the theater.
Same. Mm-hmm. I can tell you the same. And I remember vividly. I remember who it was with. I just remember, like, because I've been looking forward to this movie. It was like, you know what, this movie. I remember seeing the trailers after, like, you know, being skeptical about it, seeing the trailers. Like, this looks badass. I'm so down to see it. And when I did, it even does such a great introduction. You know, like right off the bat, it's just showing you Wolverine sleeping in a limo.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
just showing you like this old battered Wolverine sleeping in a limo, and it's like it puts you in the, you know, this isn't your typical comic book film.
Yeah, man, this isn't the Captain America or Iron Man or the Batman or Superman stories, you know, or type of movie that we'll get. This is I mean, guys, if you didn't know, Hugh Jackman literally took a pay cut to make sure this movie kept its R rating. You know, he had to take that pay cut. I mean, this had to have been made the way it was made. I don't think this story would have worked if it would have been a PG-13, what's it called, you know, kind of toned down type of film. I mean, this really had to work as an R-rated, gritty film.
Yeah, no, it had to be told in the way that it was presented, because no other way would have worked. No other way could we just truly just get down to the gritty, grounded nature of Wolverine. Because, to be completely honest, I think all the other Wolverine movies, you know, like X-Men Origins and the Wolverine, were still treated like these comic book films.
Yeah.
And this one is like, no, we're stripping down the comic book, and, you know, we're kind of going bare bones Wolverine story, like the way that sometimes they were told in the comics of just this, like, beast.
Yup. And what's it called? By the way, this film did receive a Best Adapted Screenplay nomination at the Oscars. Was one of the I believe it was the first one since the fucking Dark Knight to have received a nomination for a comic book film. And you know, I was gonna say that all the other past Wolverine films, they've always been treated as a spectacle, right? This is nothing. This is no spectacle. This is just literally, this is what this movie would have easily been made. If it wasn't Wolverine, this movie easily is a film that would have been made in the 80s or the 90s.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. This is easily, what's it called? This is a Western. This is a Western film. And I got some fun notes here, man. They shot in Juarez, by the way.
Really?
Yeah. No, never mind. Hold on. What was the title was, the false title was the Juarez, but you know, they shot in Louisiana,
New Mexico, Mississippi.
New Mexico, and they really do get some really good locations in here. Whoever was fucking Mangold really did scout some really good locations for this, man.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah, I love the locations they use this, but this movie does bring in a lot of conversations to have, and I mean, I have my notes here, and I do have a lot of stuff that I want to bring up, but you know, I'm kind of honored that this is the first comic book movie we do. Of course, somebody already did claim for season 2 a comic book movie, and you know, it's one that I did not enjoy that much, but you know, I'm still gonna have to talk about it because it does have some interesting themes. But I'm glad that this is the first one we kind of start with, because this really is, to me, the gold standard for them all. And I know this is not a review show, and we're not going to get into that type of stuff, but I want to say, to me, this is as good as it gets, honestly. And I've never seen the noir version, but now that I have the Blu-ray, I'm going to get to watch it. And I just want to say, this was, I believe, my 4th time rewatching this movie, Alex. And I still have a blast watching it, and I still think it's perfect.
I still cry. I remember bawling in the theater to this movie, because this movie is one of the most emotional. Again, it's not even just a comic book. It's an emotionally charged film.
Yeah. Well,
one of the big things that you'll hear from Raul and I is just how much of a Western this movie is, and it really is. You know, you go back to the Westerns, and it's like, you know, a broken down cowboy that's like, you know, the last end of his trail. You know, like think like True Grit. You know, like think True Grit with John Wayne, or with he's Jeff Bridges in the remake with the Coen brothers.
Yeah.
You know, think of that, like Rooster Cogburn. You know, dude's broken down. Dude's just at the end of the road. You know, he's broken down, defeated. You know, just essentially they both all just are waiting for death to come knocking.
Pretty much, man. And
there's just this one little thing that just causes that one last spark, that last hoorah.
Yeah. And by the way, I remember my first day watching this too. I mean, I was with a group of friends. We all were there. And, this is going to be, so I do want to say, Luis, when we watched this film, Luis was like, oh, I'm excited, man. But I don't know, I'm not the biggest fan of these X-Men movies. A lot of them have been shit. And, most of them, have disappointed me most of the time. And I want to say, it was quite the interesting viewing with Luis, because Luis was literally jumping out of his seat at all of this, what was going on. He was jumping and he was just like surprised as what was going on. And I just remember that opening shot. He's in his limo and the guys are trying to steal his car. And the brutality of this film starts from the get-go with those beautiful blue and purple hues coming out. A very neo-noirish type of coloring to the movie, and I just loved every second of that opening shot. I mean, you talk about the brutality needed to tell the story of the broken down cowboy who's at the end of his line. You look at that opening shot, and there it is, right there. That's exactly how you start off a film like this.
Yeah, no, it's such an excellent, like, just the best way to start out the movie. Like, it basically tells you, like, right off the bat, like I said, it's not your typical comic book film. It's like, this is a nitty-gritty story, and we're going to show you right from the get-go. This is just an angry, bitter man, just so angry at the world because, at this point, mutants are pretty much non-existent.
Yeah.
He's pretty much, him and Charles and Caliban are pretty much the last, like, tail of the mutants.
Yeah.
So... And one of the themes that like X-Men has always had in the comics and in the films is just this anti-mutant sentiment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, man. And that's kind of the first thing I want to talk about when it comes to the themes of this movie. I really do want to talk about the grittiness of the world of this movie compared to all these other comic book movies, because, this is very different from let's say what's it called, an Iron Man or a Captain America, the First Avenger. This basically, all the mutants have been killed off. There was a genocide of mutants done by the man who was, set to take care of all these mutants and be the one to teach them about their powers. And, this is a very gritty world. I mean, the last remaining 3, until, the new ones get discovered at the end and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But the last 3 are just depressed, broken down men who, one of them literally has no use for his powers because there's no mutants to track except for Charles and Logan. And then you have Logan who it literally hurts for him to take out his claws. It's hurting him. And
he's suffering from the adamantium poison because, they essentially just put like this toxin in his body when they coated his skeleton with adamantium. It's killing him.
Yeah. And then, we have Patrick Stewart's, Charles Xavier, who literally at one point was the smartest man in these movies and was the most treasured one. And being the one who orchestrated everything for these mutants to have the life that they would have, to make sure that they wouldn't be discriminated against and have a home that they would call theirs. He's just absolutely lost his mind and has no control over it anymore.
Yeah.
And I think that it just introduces this very gritty, different world that, I mean, I hadn't seen this world in these movies at the time. I mean, we had seen other different type of movies with these comic book movies, but nothing had been like this. We got this last year with Joker for sure, but the last one that I think really created a very fucked up type of world was Watchmen.
Yeah, and Watchmen was always even in the comic books, was always the thing that really challenged the notion and the idea of the superhero.
Mm-hmm.
That was what Alan Moore always did, and you look back to like British writers for comic books, a lot of them didn't grow up with superheroes.
Mm-hmm.
Like one right off the top of my head is like Garth Ennis. Garth Ennis didn't grow up. He said in interviews, I didn't grow up with these superheroes. I didn't grow up with Superman. I didn't grow up with the X-Men. Garthen is like, I grew up on the British comics. It was like 2000 AD. He grew up on the stories of like Judge Dredd, which are very different, very cynical views on society. So like Alan Moore, same thing. He wrote for 2000 for 2000 AD and wrote those kind of stories. So to Alan Moore, it's like, when I'm not that interested in these superheroes. You look at the kind of stuff that he did write. He wrote Swamp Thing.
Mm-hmm.
He wrote V for Vendetta. He wrote Watchmen. Watchmen's a very cynical story because it's just like, we're portraying superheroes in a not so great light. What if they worked for the government? What if they did this? What if they did that?
Mm-hmm.
So I can see like, the closest thing to like a cynical, just like looking down film is Watchmen, because that's just what the story was. It's just a very dark, cynical story, pessimistic story.
And you really do see it in this one too. I mean, this is it's as cynical as it gets, man. I mean,
Logan just does one can argue that Logan's never cared for society because he knows what society's capable of.
Yeah.
He you still see Charles, and Charles still is clinging on to that optimism that carried him through the years of the X-Men, through the years of his research. Whereas Logan never shared that optimism. He always like looked at it with like pessimism, like, no, you don't understand these people. These people will turn their back on you in a minute.
Yeah.
And he's still carrying that, and it's pretty much penetrated into him more than the adamantium that coats his bones. You just see him, just this angry man, this angry old man.
Yeah, which is really interesting because when we get the kind of the juxtaposition of him in X-23, Lara, it's like, Logan has to kind of, doesn't force himself, but he's like, I've got to step up and have a relationship with this kid because nobody's giving it to her right now.
Yeah, it's this, basically Laura is just like coming into his life as this child who knew nothing but her friends in the lab that they were kept in. So to Laura, it's like, well, where are my friends? What is this world? She's never seen this world. She's never seen how it is. She's just like, well, what is all of this?
Yeah, and one of my favorite things that Daphne Keane does in this, I mean, just an incredible performance by Daphne Keane, by the way. Just the way she looks at the earphones of the kid from the the farm, or I know what you're talking about. Yeah, he's like, I don't know what this is. Like, this is a completely different world for me, and I've never seen anything. Or like how she doesn't know that she's supposed to pay for the drink in the Pringles in the shop. She doesn't know how this world works. She's always been inside a lab, and how and Logan kind of has to be a father in a sense and explain to her like, that's not the way that we do things here, and we have to, abide by certain things, and we have to treat people a certain way. And in a sense, she does kind of learn a little more from Logan because, she smiles and she laughs with the family they have dinner with, and Logan is also smiling and laughing. It's like, in a way, she learns just from Logan. It's like if Laura found herself a family with Logan being the father and Charles being her grandpa.
Yeah. And that's one of the dynamics that like really, and I'm actually getting emotional thinking about it. It's just that it's just like that family, that's that sense of belonging that Logan ends up feeling, and then like Charles explains it, it's like you haven't had a family in so long, and he's like, I never had a family, and he's again sticking to that pessimism, and it just shows like the kind of thing that like when someone like depends on you, like Laura depends on Logan. Just like, just this kind of like, just how that can change a person.
Yeah. And you say that, that Logan never cared for society. Yeah, it's true. Logan knows the absolute, because he is a really, really old man. I mean, he was born in the colonial times of the American, of America. So he's really seen how society has progressed and really seen the absolute dangers of it. But he does have those people around him that he cares a lot for. I mean, he loves and he cherishes and he cares for Charles. He at one point, he and Beast were very close friends and loved each other a lot. Jean Grey, another person that he loved and cherished a lot. He's had people that sadly, have, been taken away from him, but he does care.
Yeah. And I think like the loss of the X-Men, which is like illustrated in the story, is another part that's just like, I think that's what really pushes, Logan. The loss of the only thing that he ever truly knew as a family. So at some point, it's just like, I'm just taking care of Charles. But after this man's gone, because he knows that Charles is like almost gone.
Yeah.
He sees that Charles is almost like just completely gone. So he's like, once this man's gone, like, what else is there?
Yeah. Yeah, no, and what else is there? And it's the man who kind of introduced him to the world that he knows, and he was his teacher, and it was just all these things. It's just Charles is his father, and what happens when he's gone? Well, Logan has to kind of figure that out for himself. But it's just this world that we find ourselves in this movie. It's just like it's so fucking pessimistic. It's so cynical, and you really do kind of get like, of course we've seen some great X-Men movies where we really have portrayed the world that the mutants inhabit, but I think this is probably one of the most realistic versions of how the X-Men would look in a real life situation. They would get treated like immigrants, and they would get treated like like second-rate citizens.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
and it goes back to what the X-Men originally stood for in the comics, which was this very like it was an allegory towards prejudice.
Yeah.
And that's what the X-Men always were in the comic books. It was like, well, it was that one thing that could that all those people that felt left out, like different races, different sexual orientations, can look to the X-Men and be like, well, you see, they know how it feels.
Mm-hmm.
They see themselves in them. Like, you see, that's something that like I can relate to, because I have the same thing happen to me. And so I think that's one thing that I think that's just one thing that it does great, that the X-Men films have done great, and this one really takes that darker turn to it. And as much as it is a darker turn, it's actually a little more of a turn towards the real situations that we sometimes face when it comes to like prejudice.
Yeah, no, I completely agree, man. And you still see it in here, just the way that the way that these mutants are locked up in a lab, kind of in the way that the United States have locked up immigrants in cages, and the way that they're kind of used for them. They use them until they'll sweet talk them and say like, oh, this is what we're gonna do, and then in a blink of an eye they kind of betray them and be like, no, well, you should have known that this was coming. Like we were just gonna take you away like that. And the way that they're persecuted and stuff, it's all still beautifully represented in here and accurately represented, which is why I think that this is, like I said, this is one of the most accurate depictions of a comic book movie that we can see. Like, this is truly the one that I can say like, wow, like this kind of does reflect the society that we live in.
Yeah, like you look at like Dr. Rice in the film, like when Logan's watching all this footage that the nurse took in like in these buildings, like in the labs, like when they're like, oh, they're celebrating the birthday of the kids, like he pulls her aside and be like, these aren't children, these are property. We don't read them bedtime stories. We don't kiss their boo-boos. We don't celebrate birthdays. They are properties. They are properties of the government, and they need to be treated as such.
Yep. This is a really fucked up way of looking at it, man. What's it called? It's quite the it really is quite the view of it all. But when we come back, we are going to continue our discussion on Logan. But for now, we are going to go ahead and get into this commercial break. So, my friends, please listen to these commercials, and when we come back, I don't think there's no Weeb Corps commercial in there, but there's a lot of shows in there that haven't had an episode update in a while. But I always put them in there so that way you can go and direct your attention to the other feed that exists. It's not just this feed. But yeah. So in the meantime, while you guys listen to this commercial, we're going to take a break. And when we come back, Alex and I will continue our conversation on 2017's Logan. But in the meantime, listen to this stuff, and we'll be back in a bit. Hey, I'm Logan Redemption Mendoza, and this is
Jabril Newton.
And we are the hosts of High Flyer Radio. And finally, pro wrestling has come back to the Nerdcore podcast feed in the form of a show hosted by Jabril and I. And we talk about everything and anything in the pro wrestling world on Mondays at 3 p.m. Central Standard Time.
Nothing's off limits. Whatever you guys want to talk about, it is from AEW to SmackDown to Raw to NXT. Nothing's off the table. We can talk about it.
We're going to talk all about it. And if you can get it a day early, you should go to the www.patreon.com/thenerdcore and pledge to the tiers on there so you can get this show and a lot of shows days early before anybody else gets to hear it. But enough talking about it. We'll go ahead and see you there at the Squared Circle. Oh, yeah. Don't tap out. Tune in.
Hey, it's Ashley from the Gamer Corps. You may remember me from such episodes as Big Screen Mess, Mo Money Mo Platforms, and Brad Can Read. Tune in weekly as I blab with my co-hosts Raul the Nerdy Chicano and Brad the Random Germ about the latest news in gaming and gush over what we're playing at the moment. Oh yeah, and we got the deals too. Keep up with the latest deals in gaming and what's happening as I mediate Brad and Raul fighting like a married couple. Will Death Stranding ever come out? Will Cyberpunk 2077 live up to the hype? Is a next-gen worth a $500 console price tag? And has there ever been a movie adaptation of a video game that's been done right? It's all on the Gamer Corps podcast, everywhere where podcasts are.
Hey everyone, my name is Raul, the Nerdy Chicano, and I am the host of The Impaired Files. The Impaired Files is an interview show brought to you every Thursday on the Nerdcore podcast feed. And I interview people such as filmmakers, content creators on YouTube, and podcasters like Coen Geschwander. And if you want to listen to that early, a whole week early, all you got to do is go to the Patreon and pledge to the $1 tier. And if you want to listen to it with the general public, then go to the Nerdcore podcast feed on anchor.fm/thenerdcore. And the case is closed, but it's not classified. See you guys there.
Hey guys, this is Brad, aka Young Yoda. Raul said I had to make an ad, so that's what I'm doing. It's supposed to be for Unstructured, but as you guys know, you can freaking catch me everywhere when it comes to this podcast feed. You can find me on the Nerd Corps, on Gamer Corps, on Nerdy Chicanos sometimes when I get lost. But for this particular one, I want you guys to go check out Unstructured. The Raul gave me free reign to do whatever I want to do. I don't know what he was thinking. So go hear me talk about LeBron James and Taco Tuesday, vaping, so many other freaking weird topics that chimichangas, that's a good one. Shout out to Deadpool. And yeah, I guess this is the end of the ad. So if you guys want to find me, you can find me all over the place on this podcast feed. Anyways, thank you guys for listening. I love you all. And nerd up.
Hello, guys and gals, and you're listening to The Ladies of Nerdcore. I am your host, Daniela Nunez, and along with my amazing co-host, Ashley Garcia, we discuss many things like social impact, pop culture, political realms, and any controversy surrounding the Nerdverse. Tune in and listen to us bi-weekly on the Nerdcore podcast feed, and we will love to chat and hear your thoughts on our wonderful show. And thank you again for listening to The Ladies of Nerdcore.
What's up, everybody? It is me, Raul, and I'm one of the hosts of the Nerdy Chicano Show. The Nerdy Chicano Show is a comedic show brought to you by Luis and myself, and it comes to you all every Sunday on the Nerdcore podcast feed. You can catch it a day early by becoming a Patreon and supporting us at the $1 tier. And I don't really know how to explain this show other than it's fun. We get to talk about whatever we want, and it helps you move on in the week. So if you want to catch the Nerdy Chicano Show every Sunday at 8 a.m. All you got to do is go to anchor.fm/thenerdcore, and we'll see you there, baby. Hey, everyone, I'm Raul.
And I'm Brad.
And we're the hosts of the Nerdcore Podcast, the podcast that talks that nerd. Not on this ad, right?
Not
and
on this one.
We come to you every Monday, Tuesday, and Saturday. On the Mondays, we talk the news. That's the box office, the news of the week, and your trailer talk if there is any. And on Tuesday, we have our theme review. And on Saturday, you have a Saturday morning review, usually movies that have come out in the week or anything we want to talk about. Right, Brett?
Exactly. Whatever we want to talk about, this is our show. If you don't like it, then you don't have to listen.
We're the flagship show of the Nerdcore podcast feed, and we can be found everywhere you can listen to podcasts like Stitcher, Apple Podcasts, So if you want to talk that nerd stuff with us every Monday, Tuesday, and Saturday, make sure you tune in. And Brad?
Young Yoda out.
All right, we are back with the Cinema Condition, episode 21. We are here discussing James Mangold's Logan with Alex Flores, host of the Weeb Corps, writer, and all those wonderful things that we've talked about in the beginning of the episode. But I want to say thank you for listening to the commercials. And if you just skipped over, that's fine. But as always, you can find those shows on anchor.fm/the Nerdcore on the Nerdcore podcast feed. Please. All those shows and this show make up the network. And we got some really wonderful people, hardworking people who make those shows happen. Right now, it's only Brad and I who are kind of making content on the feed, but we are in a pandemic, and I have told everybody, like, there's no forcing there. If you can't record, don't record. It's all the resources are there for you all to make your shows, but if you cannot make anything right now and it's not possible for you to do it right now, then don't worry about it. I do not force anybody to make content right now. So Brad and I are just kind of holding down the fort with what we've got going on. But yeah, for now, we've only got the Nerdcore, the main show, the live show, Unstructured, and this show going on. So, we're keeping it down over there. But go and check out all those shows. Make sure you guys leave a rating review on that podcast feed for the main feed. So that way you guys can go check out all that stuff and people are able to find it easier. But yeah, that's a little bit of a plug for after the commercial break. But we're back here, and we got water, right, Alex?
Yes, I have my water bottle right here.
Yeah, because one thing that reminds you of doing these is how fucking dry my mouth gets, bro. Oh man, it's quite the it gets so freaking dry with all these shows. And but yeah, we're back to discuss Logan. And when we finished off talking about the mutants play in society, and how it really does kind of it was always meant to mimic, to kind of reflect the prejudices people were living in the world. And especially right now, we kind of find ourselves in a very interesting spot in our world. A lot of protests, and there's been because I was listening to an interview with Spike Lee on Sway's Universe, and that he didn't want to call these current protests riots. He said this is an uprising. This is an uprising by our society, and in a way that's always been reflected upon the X-Men comics and in the stories. These Malcolm X was the fucking the what's it called, the inspiration for Magneto, while Dr. Martin Luther King was for Charles Xavier, right?
Yeah, you can totally see it because you always saw it that Magneto was the more hostile of the two. Didn't believe that no, we are superior. We're more capable than these humans are, and he was the extremist.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the thing that that's like the that's even the outlook of what people say with Malcolm X. Malcolm X wasn't like an extremist. Malcolm X was like this man that was just tired of the system.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, well, and I think probably the best one to reflect that kind of shift is like First Class. When you look at First Class,
mm-hmm.
I think First Class accurately details that, because that's when you really see, Eric's like, you know what? Fine, Charles, we'll work it your way. And he tries to see it Charles's way. And he's like, you see, this is what happens when we do it your way. When we try to be civil with them, when we try to work with them, this is what happens. They don't listen.
Yup. And it's quite interesting because, this film obviously doesn't have Magneto. It doesn't have all the other X-Men because they're all killed off, right? The villain in this movie is really Dr. Rice, X-24, which is literally just a corrupted version of Logan. And really the government that keeps persecuting these mutants and trying to, subject them to experimentation and to being, lab rats for them.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I wanted to get into this because this was actually a really interesting conversation I was having at my college with somebody. Well, he was living in the dorms that I was at. And he said that he had taken the time to analyze this movie. and he saw that this was a really interesting allegory for immigration. And I was like, huh, well, can you further talk about that? So he says, first of all, these mutants, they escape from their, what's it called? They escape from their labs. They must journey north to a safe haven for them as refugees. And they need to cross the border to reach this opportunity that's waiting for them, that they say that they'll have a better life in there. And in the way, yes, you can see Logan as a coyote because he literally gets paid. He does kind of, what's it called, kind of traffic these kids, kind of, take them into the border. So in a way, yes, Logan is the coyote. So it's kind of interesting. What do you think about that, Alex? I wanted to have this conversation with you for a while, and there's a reason why I've waited for this episode to have it with you.
That's actually not too far off, and I can actually see that working as an allegory.
Yeah. So obviously, the what's it called? X-23 Lara, she gets picked up by Logan, and they must take her to this world that is seen as somehow being fake, and a lot of us in the community, we know about, there was this whole, we read about all these things that we thought we were fake, like, in our history, we thought the fountain of youth, there's a really good story,
Yeah.
They were like, oh, the fountain of youth, that's what the Spaniards came to look for. They said that it gave them, youth and stuff. And, we actually find out that those were just stories created by the Mexica to get the Spaniards away from them as soon as possible. So that way they wouldn't, be messing with them more. So they just created all these these outrageous stories so they could leave them alone and not colonize more. But, you see Eden as the safe haven that is portrayed in the comic books, and Logan's like, what the hell are you talking about? This isn't a real place. This is some fake place made by writers for a comic book. But,
Yeah.
but Lara, in this case, as the immigrant in the story, is like, this is a real place. My friends are there. This is where we're going to be safe. And in a way, you kind of see, because it's not at the border. It's right by the border. It's still on the American side. And in a way, you can see Eden as, the border town that we live in. It's supposed to be the safe haven place where they can be kept safe and nobody comes after them. But they get tracked down and they still get try to get killed there. So it's an interesting parallels and kind of an allegory for the immigration, immigration. And it, of course, I feel like if this was done by Mangold in purpose, of course it would literally happen the year after President Trump goes into office in 2016. So yeah, what do you think, Alex?
I don't know. It's not an outlook that I really looked into with this film. It's not really an outlook that I really thought about it with this film. I think it's a very interesting outlook, and I think that it's very probable, and I'm just like, it's actually changing the way that I view the film.
Yeah. I mean, it's not. I'm not gonna lie, bro. When you told me, I kind of was like, huh. And then I watched the film through that lens today, and I was like, yo, this kind of does check out, man. Like, this kind of does have those stories. But of course, the only person who we can actually have this conversation with would be Mangold, to really know what he was writing in there and what he was directing it as. But I mean, also, like, a lot of the modern westerns have to deal with immigration, and really, this film is based in the South, and then it moves up north. But like, I mean, it is kind of interesting if you look at it through that way. And also, I mean, like, Logan pretty much would be the coyote in this sense. But yeah, dude, it's quite the interesting outlook into this movie. And I gotta say, the thing that impressed me the most about this guy when he was talking about is like, filmmakers are quite smart people. If like, and I was like, yeah, no, you got a point there. We are kind of smart, right? we can't do much math work, but we're smart when we talk about the stories we make, right, right, Alex?
That the way that you worded it like that reminds me of Reminds me of like an old joke we communication majors used to make
Yeah.
while we were there. Me and my buddies.
Yeah.
Like one of our professors can be like, "Hey, I need to like do this real quick. Like, can someone do the math for me?" Like he'll just like bring up some random thing and be like, "Can someone do the math for me?" And then like we'd be like, "Hey, we don't do math. We're communication majors."
Yeah. That's exactly what my professor says on set. He's like, what's it called? I'm not gonna ask you guys to do math in here. We're film students for a reason. We can't do math. And yeah, sorry guys. it's quite funny, but for sure, dude. It's quite an interesting allegory to that he kind of presents, and yeah, I mean, the next time I watch this, I'm gonna be closely monitoring it again because I was watching it through this lens, and I was like, oh, you know what, he's kind of has a point there, but
yeah, no, like thinking back to the film, I'm even starting to see it a little bit. Like, you know what, I can actually see a lot of this
yeah,
really happening.
and I mean, of course, like because the mutants were supposed to be, the outcasts and those who were prejudiced against. And if we do kind of, put this in the scope of the year that it came out, the mutants would be of course, immigrants who were being, heavily prosecuted at the beginning of the administration, still are. But, it was very relevant for the time. But, yeah, I kind of wanted to bring that up. And now we're kind of getting to the last two parts here. Do you want to do the redemption factor of this film and then kind of end it with the whole talking about if this is a Western or not?
Yeah, I'll do that.
Yeah.
The redemption aspect is, I think, really one of the big focal points, especially, and I think it's mostly because of the Laura character. He always felt like he didn't get his life right.
Yeah.
Logan always felt like, I'm walking around on this earth with so many sins that I have committed, just so many things that I have done wrong in my life, things that I have done the wrong way. And I think he looks at Laura as like that last chance to, finally get something right. Mm-hmm. Just to like set this little girl on a path because he sees it. He sees him in her. He sees like the feralness. He sees the mistrustingness. He sees that animal and he's just like, no, don't be like that. He's like, don't be me. So the Logan Redemption arc is really, really just him trying to feel like there was one thing in his life that he truly got right, and it is this little girl.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's kind of a way it is, avenging Charles, everything that he did for him, and, kind of avenging the people that had to die because of that Winchester incident with Charles killing all the mutants. Logan carries all this weight on his shoulders, and you see it throughout this movie. I mean, him just explaining to Lara, and probably one of my favorite scenes, and honestly, man, I do believe Hugh Jackman deserved a nomination for this role. Because
I
scene,
I agree 100%.
When they're in Eden, and he explains to her what he was going to do with that bullet, I mean, that's one of the parts that gets me so emotional. Him just saying, like, I was going to shoot myself. And just how damn harrowing it is to see.
The part that gets me, like, personally, that I'm just like, that should have been an Oscar-worthy moment himself, is those final last words that he shares with Laura at the end of the movie.
Oh, yeah, of course. All those are just... all of those were nominee-worthy. I mean, even fucking Patrick Stewart, honestly, man. Patrick Stewart, in the supporting actor role, at least, should have been nominated too. But it's crazy how snubbed this movie was at the Oscars that year. More thunder, huh, Alex?
Yes, sir. I was just like, yo, that one shook the walls a bit there.
I'm really sorry you guys get added special effects on this episode. Well, they would be practical, really, not special, but practical effects of thunder in the back. But I mean, it sets quite the mood for us, right? But I mean, Logan carries so much of this weight on him, and he feels so guilty, and he redeems himself with Laura, and which is why his ultimate sacrifice, giving his life to save these kids is so. It hits harder. That's why it hits harder because, this journey of the lone cowboy who is at the end of the line meets, this kid who shows him what's important in life and what was missing from him, and he's able to set course correct for him, and you make sure these kids go to the right place now.
Yeah, because he knows, and actually, just even apart from the Laura character, I think even all the kids, he sees these kids, he's like, wow, these are actually the kids that I was hearing about, and all these other different mutant kids, and he looks at them and he's like, you know what, this is my way of continuing the legacy that Charles Xavier, the man that took me in, wanted for these kids. He wanted these kids to grow up in peace and like in acceptance, and he's like, I need to give these kids that.
Exactly, man. And once again, I mean, even though he is the teacher for a short time, Logan does take the teacher role now from Charles. And I do got to say, because I haven't brought it up, but that Charles funeral is probably one of the saddest parts of this movie.
Oh yeah,
because like I said, another example where Jackman should have been nominated is that funeral as well. And it's just it's truly something beautiful when with those specific scenes. But yeah, and the redemption story here is just so beautiful too, man. And I remember sobbing in the theater at the death of Wolverine, and that final fight, he takes the serum, he gets his energy, and kills all the people who are kind of trying to kill these kids. And that final fight with him in X-24, which is absolutely brutal, dude. I mean,
oh yeah,
one of the most brutal fights, and you just see Logan giving every single last part of him to make sure that these kids are safe.
And you can just see the pain in his face.
Yeah,
like you could truly just see the pain and agony in him.
Yeah, and I can't remember what the line. I'm gonna search it up here. The line that from the film that she kind of talks about when they're at the funeral for Logan, the line that Laura says, there's no more guns in the valley, and it's quite the beautiful line that she reads for him.
Let me try to look it up myself too.
Yeah, I mean, hold on, man, because I think it is quite I think there's something to dissect there.
It's in a powerful line.
Yeah, I mean, in a way, there's stuff I want to say about it, but I want to see if I can find it right here, because I don't want to misquote here. But I do love that the first line in the movie is "fuck." He's just like fuck.
Fuck.
Yeah. Here we go. Come on, IMDb, do not fail me today, please. Usually you're pretty good about this. Oh yeah. So a man has to be what he is, Joey. Can't break the mold. There's no living with the killing. There's no going back. Right or wrong, it's a brand. A brand that sticks. Now run on home to your mother. You tell her everything's all right. There are no more guns in the valley. In a way, I think Laura's saying, like, thank you to Logan, because now these kids aren't going to be used as weapons. And those might have been the last mutants to have been in that facility, and the last mutants to have survived that were made.
To my knowledge, I believe you are. Those were the last living kids that were left in the facility.
And because of him, and now Logan gets to join his mother and his father and goes and sees them. And thanks to him, Laura and her friends get to actually live a life that is theirs. And they don't have to become weapons anymore. So in a way, there is no more guns in the valley, of course. They're not weapons anymore. And, and it's kind of Laura telling Logan, like, you killed so many people, you've hurt so many people, I understand. And there's no going back from that. And, it's who you were made to be and who they created you as. And, I forgive you for that. And, as a daughter looking at her father, like, I forgive you. And, now you can rest. And you can rest in peace, and you can die peacefully. And she moves that cross and she makes an X. And that was one of the...
Oh, man, that part was like...
Yeah. Oh, one of the most beautiful parts of that movie, dude. But
and she just flips it over and makes it into an X. So I was like, bro.
Yeah. Yeah, you just kind of just kicking me in the gut more and more, right? I'm already down there, Mangold. You kind of want to give me more kicks to the gut? But
it's like, bro, you already have me crying. Do you really need me to be bawling in this theater so they can be like, who's this guy over there bawling? I'm like, man,
Shut the fuck up, man. I'm just crying. Can a man cry in peace? But yeah, man, it's one of the most beautiful lines in this movie, and yeah, I think that's honestly what it kind of symbolizes. You agree with me there, Alex?
Oh hell yeah! Oh yeah!
All right, man. So now we get into the interesting, discussion here. The question to everybody: what's it called? We believe this is a Western. Everybody kind of believes it's a Western, but like we said, we've explained it here, man. This is a Western to us. I think this, of course, it has the redemption story. It has the betrayal because Logan has been betrayed by, his own teacher. He killed off his own people, but he still takes care of him. He's been betrayed by the government who was supposed to protect him, but it has done nothing to protect him at all. And there is the redemption story of him, of the cowboy, but once again, Logan is the lone cowboy who is at the final part of his life, and he's kind of dying off. And, kind of like the old the Japanese samurai films, the lone samurai who's at the end of his line too. Excuse me.
Oh yeah, no. And I think that's like a big thing that even like, Westerns can even say they borrowed from the samurai films.
Yeah. 100%, bro. I mean, thank you to Kurosawa. The Western genre was created to him, by him. So we covered Sergio Leone's Fistful of Dollars this month for Western month.
It was supposed to be like a loose kind of remake, wasn't it?
No, it was straight up fucking remake of Kurosawa. You literally fucking remake Yojimbo. But yeah, Alex, you agree with me that this is a Western, and is there any other parts that I missed out on here when I was explaining the art that do make up the Western feel of this movie?
I mean, not even just like not even just the themes of the film. I think even just like the locales and the and the cinematography, the hues of like orange and just browns, just all of the things that just like scream Western.
Yeah. And yeah, I'm sorry, man. Finish up.
Yeah. Oh no.
I was gonna say one thing that I do kind of really do appreciate from Mangold here, and it's quite and I've talked about it. Like I just released a Western short film. It's a silent film, and one of the things that I said and one of the pictures that I took was that one of the first cowboys were black and brown folk. They were black and Latino people, and the first family that the family that Logan, Charles, and Laura, kind of interact with is a black family. Yeah. And they are the first ranchers, the black and brown people are the first ranchers, the first cowboys. So I gotta really give a props to Mangold for that. I don't know if that was intentional or that was just like, I just kind of casted them and I wanted them to be the family. But it was really, really interesting to kind of be reminded in a sense like, the first cowboys were black and brown people.
Yeah. And I feel like sometimes like he's just like, yeah, that's what I meant to do.
yeah, that's what I meant to do. Yeah, it's okay.
You got it right there. Yeah. So glad you caught it.
Glad you caught it. But I gotta say that was really interesting. And sadly, that family does get killed off. But yeah, I mean, everything from the hues, the color grading, the location it's in, bro. When they're at the casino, every man's got a fucking cowboy hat on in Oklahoma.
Cowboy hat, and just like, decked out in all sorts of like Western wear. I mean, the building that they lived in, the little like abandoned like factory that they lived in. The one that they inhabited, the one where Charles was living in and Logan was living in. That's what that's straight up cowboy. Like Western films. The locale, just dirt and sand and everything.
Yep, and what's it called? I can't remember his name, but I love his performance in this movie. Homeboy with the mechanical arm.
The one that plays Pierce.
Pierce, yeah.
Pierce. I'm trying to remember his actual
fantastic
name.
Fantastic performance. I love his performance.
Oh, I love Pierce. It's Boyd Holbrook.
Boyd Holbrook.
Holbrook.
He is the outlaw. That's pursuing the cowboy. And I was gonna say there's one when he shoots Victor. And he tells him get what's it called? Don't worry. Just a flesh wound, baby. And the way he just says like, God, I fucking hate you so much, but you're so great. But
Or like when he's like Caliban's like gonna dump him out, and Caliban sees like, oh shit, they're coming, and then like fucking holding the gun to Caliban's face like, you're fucked now, mutie.
Yeah. So Pierce is the outlaw in this story. X20. I guess you could say X24 too. More so like they're bound of outlaws, but I think X24 is mostly just the corrupted version of the cowboy in here of Logan. But I this movie, it's 100% a Western. Anybody who doesn't think so, it's like it's right there, man. It's really right there. It's
staring you in the face. You just don't want to believe it.
Yeah. And gotta be on horses, guys. It's all good. Don't have to be on horses, but I wanted to bring that up, and
Blade Runner's noir, guys.
Yeah.
It's just because it's not like all black and white and like in the 40s, it's a noir, guys.
Yeah. A great tease for a Blade Runner that's coming up in 2 weeks, I believe. But
oh shit, I dropped it. I did it.
I done did it, bro. I done did it.
I did a plug.
But yeah, I gotta say we've really ended. We're here at the end, man. But was anything else you wanted to bring up before we go into the hot seat?
No. I mean, I pretty much said all I wanted to about this film. It's if you've never watched it, it's one of those films that you need to sit down. You can honestly enter it having never watched an X-Men movie before. You can just have a vague idea of what the X-Men were, what they are, and you can sit down and just still appreciate this movie.
And I think that's just what makes it so great, man. It doesn't have a, connecting universe or a connecting storyline to it. They're like, at the beginning, they're like, all the mutants are dead, and we are only focusing on these three people, and that's it.
And I think Mangold did that on purpose because I think he wanted it to be as accessible as possible to people. Be like, look, yes, this is a character from these X-Men movies, but you know what? You don't need to watch those. You don't need to know anything. I will give you everything. Just experience this story.
Yeah. And
I will hand you all you truly need to know.
Yep. And that's what makes this beautiful movie the incredible masterpiece that I think it is, man. So that is our conversation on 2017's Logan. And Alex, you're not done yet, buddy. You're not done yet. We're here with the hot seat, my friend. But of course, Alex will be back in, I believe. So hold on, I've got to look at my calendar. It's not 3 or 4. I think it's like another month for this. But
Homeboy's running a professional operation up in here.
Of course, bro. This is great radio, right?
I always got told I had the face for radio.
Yeah, that's what Brad told me too. Hey, it's why we were both of us are radio hosts, bro. So
that's true. I had my radio show. I just played music because I thought that people were like, "Why don't I hear your voice, man? Play the jams."
Yeah. I was completely different. I actually had a show about movies on the radio what's it called, the radio station. But
for me, I had like my show was like, I think it was right before this one show that either got pulled off or canceled or like they just dropped off the show. It was a show about like campus life and whatnot. I remember I tried listening to it once because I was doing a show after it, and they were talking about like the parking situation, and I was like, God damn, I'm ready to hit the snooze button.
Yeah, no, yeah, can never do that, man. So you come back in a month and a half for Akira, which wow, man, that's gonna be a good one, man. That's gonna be a good one. And
back to my weeb, back to being a weeb.
Yes, sir. Back to our weebiness, right? And then, but yeah, that's your next appearance. But you do have the opportunity to claim a movie for season 2. But before we can do that, Alex, what is a movie that you recommend that people watch that is not this movie or your claimed movie?
Like just a random movie?
You were supposed. I told you had to recommend a movie and you had to claim a movie.
Oh, didn't I? Oh, what movie did I recommend?
I think you said so. Your two choices were between two movies. One of them was The Hateful Eight. I guess you could recommend that if they want to watch another Western.
Yeah, I honestly, if you want to watch like a great Western, another great modern Western, I would recommend The Hateful Eight. I'd even recommend like Like one that I mentioned earlier was True Grit.
True Grit.
I haven't watched the John Wayne remake. I mean, I haven't watched the original John Wayne one. I've only watched the remake with the Coen brothers. So I could only truly offer to recommend the remake. But honestly, the remake is more than worth it.
So more than worth it, bro. It's
The Hateful Eight. I mean, the True Grit remake with the Coen brothers and Jeff Bridges and was it Matt Damon?
can't remember, but I do know that Haley Steinfeld is in that one too.
Yeah, that movie is if you just want to get straight into like an actual Western, like True Grit, The Hateful Eight, Tarantino, excellent movies. I even sat down and watched the Hateful Eight extended cut that they have up on Netflix, and I enjoyed that movie so much.
It's one of my most underrated Tarantino movies for sure.
Honestly, yeah, no. Right before Once Upon a Time came out, I think that The Hateful Eight was my favorite Tarantino movie.
Yeah, it's in my top 5, man. I love The Hateful Eight. I think it's one of his best work. It's underappreciated as fuck.
Oh hell yeah! I think that it's a massively underappreciated film, and just think about how scary it is that we almost didn't get it.
Yeah, for sure. I also think that one and Jackie Brown are super underappreciated.
Oh, Jackie Brown's super underappreciated.
Yeah.
Jackie Brown is
Pam
so
Grier.
great.
Pam Grier is a fucking goddess, isn't she, bro?
Yeah, no man. Jackie Brown does not get the love that it deserves. I remember I had heard about it, and I was like, no, I've never heard of. I had never really heard people talk about Jackie Brown, and I'd seen it up once. I think it was probably like on Netflix or something, and I'm like, well, it's Tarantino, and I'm like, fuck it, I'll watch it. And I read it, and I'm like, holy shit, why do people not talk about Jackie Brown?
Yeah, you're like, why haven't I watched this movie?
I'm like, why? I'm like, everyone talks about, like Pulp Fiction and Inglourious Bastards and whatnot, and I'm like, those are great films in their own right, but where's the love for Jackie Brown?
Yup. All right, man. So you recommend The Hateful Eight. What is the movie that you are claiming for season 2 of the Cinema Condition, Alex?
The one that I am claiming, and I know that we talked about it off the air, and Brad's like upset that I claimed it too, because he's already mad that I claimed Akira.
Yep.
He's mad that I already claimed Akira. So one that I am claiming for season 2 is The Big Lebowski.
Oh my God! All right.
It's one of my favorite movies of all time. I have watched it I don't know how many times. I'm probably like on watch number 10, 15. I don't know what the hell. It's something that I just watch every time, and you will catch me quoting it every time.
Yep. Come in, guys. The water's fine.
One that I always quote is like, especially when the Eagles come on, it's just like, man, can someone change the channel? It's like, man, I had a long day and I hate the fucking Eagles, man.
Hate the fucking Eagles, man.
I love that line.
I fucking love it too, man.
Or the one when you're just like arguing with someone and they're just like,
it's kind of
like someone's just like telling you something. That's just like your opinion, man.
Man, yeah. So Alex will come back for season 2 for the Big Lebowski, and of course he has another slot that he will decide, during our off period that we have here on the Cinema Condition. But I want to thank you so much, brother. I mean, you and I we're cut from the same branch. We come from the same tree. We both love this medium more than anything in the world. Except that you're more into the editing and I'm more of the writer and director in the sense. I mean, you're good. You really like writing too, but
I'm writing. Like I said, I'm writing my comic book. Hopefully one day I can talk about it. I mean, I have a general synopsis that like anyone that cares to listen, I give out the synopsis to and what I plan to do with the story.
Yep.
I just don't give out super details, but like I want to talk about it. I have, my story is called Adam Trash.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be a superhero story. Not really. It's going to be like in the vein of Tom King, where I really dive into a lot of like just like psychological.
Yep.
Actually, it's kind of like this. It's kind of like a story of just a man just trying to rediscover himself.
Yeah, and just put it out there, man. You just manifest this energy you got here, man, and we're gonna do great things. And I've got your back more than anything, bro. If I could, I'd have you out in Houston working with me over there. I'd have you in every set that I could have. It's just, life is a bitch sometimes. And
life is a female dog, and
Yeah.
it's just how it falls. And that's why I'm like, well, this entire pandemic, I got the first issue, I got the first treatment done for the first issue.
Yep.
I'm in the middle of the second one. I'm trying to flesh this out, seeing how it can be made into 12, 15 issues. I want to publish it myself.
Mm-hmm.
I want to, like, I don't know how I'll do it. I know for sure I'm going to do it digitally.
Yep.
I know for sure I'm probably going to put it out digitally. I'm going to put it out digitally. Maybe do physical. We'll see.
Kickstarter, bro.
Kickstarter.
Yeah.
Try to see if anyone wants it. The thing is that, like, before I start putting it out there, I just want to make sure I have all the story done.
Exactly. But you can always come to me promotion wise. We get you on all the podcasts we can get you on to discuss it and put it out to the world. And we're gonna do all we can, bro. But I got your back. I love you more than anything, man. We're
I love you too, my brother. Thank
Yeah.
you for this opportunity. I was more than happy to come on.
Yeah.
Talk about one of my favorite movies.
Yeah.
You even go on my letterbox. Let me see.
Yeah, it's on his letterbox. Talking about social media and stuff. So you want to let them know where they can find you on your many accounts on the internet.
Well, right now I've just been sticking to one Twitter account. It's my new go-to Twitter account. I'm probably gonna phase my old Twitter account out and keep that one more private. My current Twitter account is Alex Does Comics.
Mm-hmm.
That's where I just share all sorts of different comic book things, whatever I'm reading. Retweeting random comic book art that I love.
Mm-hmm.
Just talking about comics.
It's on
showing
brand,
what
man.
I got recently.
Yeah, it's on brand. It's on your brand. So
It's my brand.
Yeah.
So I have that. I have Letterboxd. I made my Letterboxd when I was still doing the Weeb Corps. So it's Weeb Lord Alex. You can catch me. I don't do reviews all the time. I don't do written reviews all the time. I've done a few. Some of them are completely serious. Some of them are like me giving Lilo and Stitch 5 stars and calling it the best Disney movie ever. Don't at me.
Yeah. If you just want to be up to date on what Alex is watching, man, just go ahead and do that.
Every time I watch a movie, I'm literally putting it on Letterboxd. Be like, well, I'm gonna put my review on Letterboxd.
Yeah.
The only ones that I don't have reviews for or like even scores for is a bunch of Adam Sandler movies that I remember that I've watched. I just like, oh yeah, I watched that. What would I give it? I don't know.
Yeah. So I'm kind of the same way. So I don't score short films unless they're short films from like big directors.
Uh-huh.
And I don't, but I'll leave a heart, if I liked it or if I didn't.
Mm-hmm.
But if there's a feature-length film that's in my letterbox that's not scored, yeah, that probably means it was bottom of the barrel shit. Scrape out of the barrel shit, man. So take that with what you will.
For me, it's just a bunch of Adam Sandler movies where I just like have it like not scored. I'm just like, what do I give it? It's like, it's hard for me to judge comedy, and yeah. But there's comedies that I still have judged on there, but
yeah.
I
have Talladega Nights as a 5-star, so that should probably show you how I feel. But but yeah, dude, that's where you can find Alex, and of course you can always find me at the Nerdy Chicano. I've been doing a lot of stuff, guys. I could really use your help. I'm going to check it out. thenerdcore.com for all my reviews I've been writing. I'm doing my 75 films for Major Challenge, and I'm doing written reviews on there. And I'm going to be doing some video reviews for my personal YouTube channel. So I decided to kind of separate it. Written reviews go to the website, and my video stuff goes to my personal channel, so I can have a documentation of all the reviews I've done for them and all the movies I've watched. So you guys can go find all that wonderful stuff on there. My personal YouTube channel, just search up Raul Alejandro Mendoza and you'll find me. And I know you'll find a lot of other Mexicans on there, but I promise you're gonna recognize me when you see it.
It's the face you cannot forget. It's the face you can see coming from a mile away.
It's a face you cannot forget, my friend. And I put out a short. You can find my short on there too, and you can find it on my Instagram at the Nerdy Chicano as well. Alex and I are gonna work on expanding that short. That was like a 3-minute video. We're gonna try to expand it and do something else with it. So, come on. It's kind of what happens when you get two guys who really like Westerns, and you're like, oh yeah, we gotta expand this already. We gotta expand this soon.
It's fucking Western, guys.
Yeah, it's fucking Westerns, guys. That's how you're gonna get me. Just it's a fucking Western, guys. But
Just be like, hey, it's a fucking Western. What? All right, I'm there.
yeah. And of course, you guys can go catch me every weekend on the Nerdcore live show, every Monday and Saturday on the Nerdcore podcast, discussing our movies for that month, and on the Saturday morning review. And this is up early for patrons. This is up on Thursday. It is going to be released on Wednesday. So Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. It is up 6 days, guys, early for patrons. If you want to listen to this earlier than everybody else, all you do is go to www.patreon.com/nerdcore. And I want to thank all our patrons from our $1 tier all the way to our $100. Nobody's gotten there yet. No one's gotten to the $50 either. But I'll just say thank you to everybody who supports us on Patreon. All 14 of you all are what makes these shows happen, and you guys make it possible. So, like I said, if you want to get it, days early, this show, you go to patreon.com/nerdcore, or you can go check it out on the Cinema Condition on the day it drops. Make sure you leave a rate review for that on our Apple Podcast feed, so people can find this show easier. And with that being said, it's been a lot of fun, Alex.
It's been a lot of fun, man. I'm ready to do this again in, what is it, a month or so?
Month and a half, my friend.
All right, month and a half. I will be ready to do it. We'll be talking about Akira.
Yeah, and like I always said, I don't have an outro for this show. I just remind you guys that, cinema is a commentary. The whole art of cinema is, in all art, is a commentary on the human condition. And that's why this show is called The Cinema Condition. And the best way to kind of learn more about the human condition and kind of invigorate that experience and learn more about art is to watch art. So tonight, my friends, when you have time, make sure you watch a movie. Watch something you haven't watched before, or watch something that absolutely blows your mind. Either way, we will see you guys on the next one when we invite my great friend, Patrick Grady, to discuss 1980s Stanley Kubrick masterpiece, The Shining. We'll see you guys on the next one.